Total since starting the program, driven a total of 73,675 miles. Total expenses have been $60,986 at 83 cents per mile, and that is my cost per mile. Total revenue has been $126,617 at $1.72 per mile. Total profit loss has been $65,631 at 89 cents per mile, and all of these loads are dry van. Welcome back to Trucking the 7 Seas. This is episode number 76, and in this episode, we're going to cover week 32 through 34 of the Landstar Owner-Operator Program. We are going to cover 3 weeks this week because I did the original 2 weeks that I normally do, and then Thanksgiving happened, so I didn't have time to make a video. So as a result, I had to wait another week, so we're going to cover 3 weeks this week. If you're new to this channel, welcome. I started this channel in order to show exactly what truck drivers make. We started as a company driver, working for night transportation, moved on to a lease operator, working for night transportation, and now we are an owner operator, working for Landstar. I show all the loads I take, what the revenue is, what the expenses are, and I compile all this information that I put into a spreadsheet that I share with you at the end of every video. So if this is a topic that interests you, follow the channel. But last episode, we left off in Tyler, Texas. So we dropped a load in Tyler, Texas, and then we had some issues finding another load. So if you remember from last episode, I mentioned that I went to a paper facility and tried to pick up some paper, but they denied the trailer because there's a hole in it. And then basically everything just kind of went haywire after that. I ended up having a long unload time as well on the previous load. So long story short, I ended up taking a couple days off over a weekend, which didn't go well. That's not what I wanted. So I did that, but then the Monday came around, and then I found, I guess I'll put it over here, this load right over here. So this one's going from Port Arthur, Texas to Remington, Indiana, which is basically like the Chicago area. So I found this load and ended up taking it. So let's go to Remington, Indiana. All right, so then after that Remington, Indiana load, I wanted to stay local in the Midwest, so that's what we were doing. So found this load right over here. So this one's going from Gary, Indiana to Winchester, Virginia. Gary, Indiana is again Chicago, and this was actually a multi-stopper. So I picked it up originally in Gary, Indiana. We brought it to Winchester, and then there was supposed to be a follow-on load going from the Virginia area back to the Midwest. But basically the load got canceled. So this was originally a multi-stopper. We were supposed to go from like Gary to Winchester and then from somewhere in Pennsylvania back to Ohio or something like that. But the Ohio leg got canceled. So we ended up just taking the first leg from Gary, Indiana to Winchester, Virginia. So let's go. All right, so then after that Winchester load, as mentioned, the follow-on legs got canceled. I was actually pretty upset by this because I dropped this Winchester one on, I think, a Saturday, and then took the Sunday off to reset. Didn't necessarily need the reset. I think I had like 30 hours or something like that on the clock, but I'm like, all right, I'll just, reset and wait for this Monday load. So came in on Monday, and then they said, yeah, the load's not ready. So I was pretty upset by that, and I didn't get anything for it because when I, asked, hey, can you, do layover or whatever, like, oh, well, the shipper offered you another load, but the load they offered me, like I was there at 8 a.m. and the load that they offered me wasn't going to pick up until 1600. So I was like, man, that's annoying. So I was pretty upset by that and didn't get anything for it. And there was nothing I could do about it. So that was pretty BS in my opinion. So pretty upset with that. Load got canceled, all that good stuff. Ended up wasting about an entire day of reset that didn't necessarily need. Anyways, though, after that Winchester drop, I then found another Winchester load going from Winchester, Virginia, just down the road, and headed to Beloit, Wisconsin, which is again pretty much Chicago. So let's go back to the Chicago area. Okay, so after that Beloit, Wisconsin load, we then found this load over here. This one's picking up in West Chicago, Illinois, and headed to Louisville, Kentucky. So that seemed like a decent load, so we went ahead and grabbed it, and now we're headed to Louisville, Kentucky. All right, so then after that Louisville, Kentucky load, we needed to get back to the West Coast because it was getting close to Thanksgiving. So I wanted to head back there, specifically the Tucson area. So I was looking around and I ended up finding this load over here. And I've hauled this load before, a couple of times actually. So it's picking up in Ferdinand, Indiana, which is just outside of Louisville, and headed to Phoenix. It's a direct shipper, nice little drop and hook, and decent paying as well. So we went ahead and grabbed this, head to Phoenix, and then after this Phoenix load, we took Thanksgiving off, so it'll be a couple days until the next load. So in the meantime, though, let's go to Phoenix. All right, so following that Phoenix load, we then took about a week off, a little less than a week off to, just go Thanksgiving. So I think I dropped it on like Tuesday or something like that. And then I got back on the road. I think on Sunday is when I ended up leaving after Thanksgiving. So about 5 days off or something like that. So left the Phoenix area. Well, it's actually Tucson area. So I dropped it in Phoenix and I deadheaded down to Tucson where I had some family. And then, so on the West Coast, obviously the Los Angeles area is the best area by far. In fact, it's like #1 in the entire country, in my opinion. So was looking to get back to Los Angeles, and I was starting to look at the rates coming around Phoenix or Tucson to the Los Angeles area. And long story short, there really isn't any good rates. So the loads going from Phoenix or Tucson to Los Angeles pay like $1 to $1.50 per mile. It's about 500 to 600, maybe 700 bucks, which really isn't worth my time, considering that the loads coming from Los Angeles to say Phoenix or Los Angeles to really anywhere are going to pay like anywhere between $3 and $5 per mile, depending on the distance. So I was looking at this and I was just going, I think it makes sense just to deadhead back to Los Angeles. So that's what I ended up doing because the load rates just were trash. And this is sustainable in my opinion because, again, if you haul a load, let's say from Los Angeles to Phoenix, it's going to pay like $4.50, $5 per mile, maybe more. But if you try to haul a load from Phoenix to Los Angeles, it pays like almost nothing, like a few $100s. So in my opinion, I think it's just better just to deadhead back and forth from Los Angeles to Phoenix or Los Angeles to Vegas or something like that. Because the load that you pick up in Phoenix might interfere with a very high paying load coming out of Los Angeles, right? So if you pick up a load in Phoenix, okay, and then you drop it in Los Angeles, let's say the appointment's at 10 a.m., right? And it takes you 3 hours to unload. So basically between like 6 a.m. and around 1 p.m., you can't book a load out of Los Angeles, which is a very good time to book a load out of Los Angeles because that's when a lot of them, pop. So long story short, I started deadheading from Phoenix, or really Tucson, to Los Angeles. And I think it's actually justifiable because the loads out of Los Angeles pay very good and the loads going to Los Angeles out of Tucson and Phoenix don't pay at all. So that's what I ended up doing. I ended up finding this load over here, going from Rancho Cucamonga to Henderson, Nevada, which is Las Vegas. And following these loads, I started doing this a lot. So the next episode you see, I'm basically just deadheading from Phoenix / Las Vegas to Los Angeles, and then just doing that back and forth because it just pays really well. And I wasn't going to go back to the Midwest on the next episode because Christmas is coming kind of right up, so I didn't want to go back out there. And the weather's better out here in the West Coast anyway. So this is what I ended up doing. I booked this load, and then next episode you see, I'm pretty much doing this for the next 2 weeks, just deadheading from Phoenix to Los Angeles and then grabbing loads out of Los Angeles. So anyways, we booked this one, and this is going to be the last load on the paycheck. So with all that said and done, we're going to go ahead and get into the spreadsheet right now. Okay, so we're going to cover 3 weeks in this episode, and we're going to start with week 32. For week 32, we did 3 loads. In those 3 loads, we got 2,678 miles. Paid a total of $4,009 at $1.50 per mile. Landstar's cut was $1,689 at 63 cents per mile. Fuel expenses were $855 at 32 cents per mile, and there were no maintenance expenses this week. Other expenses: workers' comp, $72, card fee, $4, truck scan, $350, bobtail insurance, $34, license fees, $3, permits, $94, plates, $11, IFTA, $101, EOBR, $8 for a total of $333 at 12 cents per mile. Total expenses were $1,189 at 44 cents per mile. Total revenue was $4,009 at $1.50 per mile. That brought a net settlement to $2,819 at $1.05 per mile. All right, caveats. There aren't really any. This Port Arthur load, I had to do some weird stuff because of the trailer denial at the one place, so there was some extra deadhead in there because they ended up kind of jockeying around to different areas. That's really about it. Fairly low fuel bill. Some of it is probably on next week's fuel bill, so that's why that's low. If the charge came in, that's about it. Pretty standard week. Not too bad. $2,800, $1.05 per mile, 2,600 miles. All in all, I'd say that's an okay week. So let's go ahead and move to week 33. For week 33, we did 2 loads. In those 2 loads, we got 2,095 miles. Paid a total of $3,479 at $1.66 per mile. Landstar's cut was $1,374 at 66 cents per mile. Fuel expenses were $1,040 at 50 cents per mile, and there were no maintenance expenses. Other expenses: workers' comp, $72, card fee, $6, truck scan, $3, bobtail insurance, $34, license fees, $3, permits, $94, plates, $11, tolls, $13, EOBR, $27, for a total of $265 at 13 cents per mile. Expenses for week 33, total expenses were $1,306 at 62 cents per mile. Total revenue was $3,479 at $1.66 per mile. That brought a net settlement to $2,173 at $1.04 per mile. Caveats for week 33. The only big one is, I was trying to get back to the West Coast to celebrate Thanksgiving. So that's what this load right here is about. And it was a good load either way. Hauled it a couple times, actually. Not bad. Fairly low on the mileage. I think a day or 2 of the Thanksgiving holiday was on this week. So I took an extra day or 2 off. So that's what's going on there. So somewhat low mileage. Fuel bill was pretty high. I'm guessing, last week's fuel bill was low. This week, 33. Fuel bill is high. So that's what's going on there. It pretty much evened out. And that's about it. Pretty standard week. Again, $2,100, $1.04 per mile, 2,000 miles. It's okay. Not too bad. That's about it. So let's go ahead and move on to week 34. For week 34, we did 1 load. In that 1 load, we got 557 miles. We had a total of $1,075 at $1.93 per mile. Landstar's cut was $530 at 95 cents per mile. Fuel expenses were $325 at 58 cents per mile, and there were no maintenance expenses. Other expenses: workers' comp, $72, card fee, $2, bobtail, $34, license fees, $3, permits, $94, plates, $11, IFTA, $40, for a total of $258 at 46 cents per mile. Totals for week 34. Total expenses were $583 at $1.05 per mile. Total revenue was $1,075 at $1.93 per mile. That brought a net settlement to $492 at 88 cents per mile. All right, caveats for week 34. Only big one and obvious one is only 1 load. Very short load. This, following Thanksgiving, just deadheaded to Los Angeles. And as you can see, Even though there's some big deadhead, the total revenue and rate per mile isn't bad. Now, granted, it's only one load. If I did this, a number of times, it would be a lot better. So this load originally paid like $6.70 or something per mile before Landstar took its cut. After Landstar took its cut, it dropped down to $5 or whatever, something like that. I don't remember exactly, but it paid really well. So the deadhead here is obviously huge, bigger than the actual load. But given that the load paid somewhere in the $6 range, I think that's justifiable. So there you have it. Just that one load with extreme deadhead. And I think it's justifiable. If you go out to Los Angeles and then just run short loads between like Los Angeles to Phoenix or Las Vegas and stuff like that, it does actually work out, especially if you can get like $6 per mile. So that's what I did, and I think it's justifiable. But yeah, so only one load obviously makes it a very short week. And yeah, there's week 34. Anyways, let's go overalls now. Total since starting the program, driven a total of 73,675 miles. Total expenses have been $60,986 at 83 cents per mile, and that is my cost per mile. Total revenue has been $126,617 at $1.72 per mile. Total profit loss has been $65,631 at 89 cents per mile, and all of these loads are dry van. Average weekly paycheck is $1,922. Average weekly miles is 2,158 miles. Total fuel cost is $34,895 at 47 cents per mile. Total maintenance cost is $10,082 at 14 cents per mile. Total other expense cost is $16,007 at 22 cents per mile. Kept this up for a 52-week period, we make $99,957 and drive a total of 112,000 miles. Landstar's 35% cut has equated to $50,214 at 68 cents per mile. Total revenue has been $176,000. Total revenue per week has been $5,179 on average. Total deadhead has been 5,950 miles, or 8% of total mileage. We've been employed 239 days, or 34 weeks, taken 28 days off, 211 days on duty, 61 total loads. Average load length is 1,208 miles. And if we had a $500 truck payment, we would have made $48,560 or 66 cents per mile. All right, yeah, so booking those for $261 per mile before Landstar takes his cut. It's pretty good. Not bad at all. I think that's decent. I'm shooting for $250, so $261 is obviously above that, so that's really good. Making 89 cents per mile, that's not so good. If I had a truck payment, I'd only be making 66 cents per mile. So that is company driver pay. I keep hoping things are going to get better, but so far they have just not gotten any better. I thought this summer, really, things would have improved, but they've pretty much stayed the same or maybe gotten slightly worse. So that's interesting. Don't know what to say about that, other than just keep on, keep going. Can't get much worse than that, hopefully, I would think. And it's the way it is. So making 89 cents / 66 cents per mile, depending on how you look at it. And yeah, that's not very good. So, but we're just going to keep at it. So deadhead currently at 8% of total mileage. So with this Rancho Cucamonga load to Henderson, Nevada, and the deadhead there, I've decided I'm going to run this on the following episode. You're going to see I'm going to run it. Run loads like this, basically from Los Angeles to Phoenix and Las Vegas and Salt Lake. And basically deadhead back. That's what I'm planning on doing, and that's what I have been doing. And the loads to those areas pay very well. So for instance, like the Salt Lake load, I booked a load going to Salt Lake for just short of $5 per mile. And then, there's nothing going back to Los Angeles. So the loads coming out of Los Angeles pay amazing, but the loads going back to Los Angeles pay like trash. So I pretty much concluded that it is actually fine to book loads from Los Angeles to Vegas or Phoenix or Salt Lake, and then deadhead all the way back. So I did take a load to Salt Lake, and then I deadheaded all the way back, but the load originally paid almost $5 per mile. So that's what I've been doing, And I did the math on it, and it does work out just fine. I mean, especially if you're booking it for $5, or in this case, $6 per mile, and then just deadheading straight back. That makes sense. Now, I could book a return load. Like, if I booked a load from Salt Lake back to Los Angeles, I could do it, but the thing is, it only pays like $1 or $1.50 per mile, and it very well could interfere with my ability to grab a load in Los Angeles. So there's a logistics problem, there's a planning problem when you book a load like that. So if I pick up a load in Salt Lake, drive down to Los Angeles, let's say the unload is at 10 a.m. Okay, unload's at 10 a.m. Let's say I get out of there by 12 or 1 p.m. Well, I missed all of the loads that popped between like 6 a.m. and 1 p.m. And there could have been a much better load there. So my thinking is that it's better probably just to deadhead and keep things simple and not miss a potential $5 or $6 load for a return load that probably only pays about $1.50 per mile. So that's what I've been doing. It worked out fine in this one. If you look at the numbers, I mean, this one worked out just fine. And it's what I've been doing the following week. And so far, I think it's working out pretty well. Time will tell. So I'll do all the numbers next week, but that's what I started doing. Running loads out of Los Angeles to Vegas and Phoenix and Salt Lake. And I think it's going to work out just fine. And I started doing this because I didn't want to run back to the Midwest because it's Thanksgiving and then Christmas is a month away. So I didn't want to like run out to the Midwest, run for 2 weeks, and then run straight back. So I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to run Los Angeles. I also emailed. So a couple episodes ago, I mentioned the clean truck check, the emissions test for trucks. I didn't know if I was doing it right. So I emailed the people, the clean truck check people, and they said, no, I did it right. So, okay, so I'm good to run California, and that's what I've been doing. And that's what I'm going to keep doing until Christmas, and then maybe keep going because the weather is really nice out here as well. But yeah, so that's what I've been doing. Basically deadheading back to Los Angeles, grabbing a load out of Los Angeles, and then going to Phoenix or Las Vegas or Salt Lake. But anyways, that's what I've been doing. So long story short, this deadhead right here is probably going to go way up to like 50%. Maybe not in the short term, but in the long term, if I were to keep doing this, it would go up to 50%. But yeah, right now it's at 8%, and it's going to drastically increase in the coming weeks. So anyways, that's what I've been doing next week. And yeah, but that's about it. There's week 32 through 34, catching up a little bit. Should post one in a couple weeks before Christmas, and then we'll see how this deadheading from Los Angeles goes. But yeah, currently 89 cents per mile. Let you determine whether that's good or bad. It's not that great, to be honest, but either way. Yeah, but that'll pretty much do it for this episode. If you are interested in this spreadsheet or any of the other spreadsheets I've done in the past, you can find them in the About section down below. After you find them, you can open them, then just hit File, Download them to a Microsoft Excel sheet, and then after you download them to an Excel sheet, you can use them however you please. But thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.